Hi everybody, welcome to the May Applique of the Month video. This is the first video I'm filming in the new room. If it sounds different or looks a little bit different, that's why. I'll have a complete tour posted soon. Let's go over everything we're going to need today. We're going to make the Freedom Rings runner. I have the doorstep delivery, so I have the runner here. I've already pre-cut and pre-fused my fabrics, the micro velvet and the felt. I will be making the 8x12 size today. The sticky notes cover when I'm not cutting. It helps make sure that I look at the right measurements. If you're making the 8x12, the red fabric and the white fabric are just about the exact size that you need. So be careful with your measuring and your cutting. I've also got my snips, double curve applique. We'll need our Kimberbell paper tape. The needle on my machine is a Schmetz 8012 super non-stick needle. And I've pulled my threads. I'll go over my colors with you. The colors are given as glide colors. The only glide color I have is white. I'll be using Floriani colors for the rest. As we work through the runner, I will call out the glide name and I will hold up and show you my colors. If you have Floriani threads, these are the colors that I'm using today. I've also already pre-washed, dried, starched, and ironed my runner. When I washed my runner, I washed it in the washing machine, in a laundry bag, on the gentle cycle, and on the back where the trim came around, this frayed a little bit on all the corners. What I did was I just took my glue gun and just put a little bit of glue and I pressed it down. That way we can start working on the project. If you haven't washed your runner yet, before you wash it, maybe apply a fray preventative like Dritz Fray Check, or if you notice that it's loose, stitch it down because it is going to fray a little bit. The instructions recommend a medium cutaway stabilizer. I like to use a sticky back tearaway stabilizer. If you watch my January and February Applique of the Month Club videos, you'll see a comparison with a sticky back wash away, the sticky back tearaway, and a cutaway. I like using the sticky back tearaway. When we hoop our runner, you'll see why. The first thing we need to do is load our stabilizer in our hoop. This is the stabilizer I'm using today. The brand is New Bro Thread. It's called Self-Adhesive Tearaway Embroidery Stabilizer, medium weight. I've already cut a piece to fit my hoop. If you've never worked with a sticky back tearaway, one side kind of feels like fabric, the other side feels like paper. I need the paper side to be up in my hoop. You'll need to really loosen your hoop to work with this kind of stabilizer. It's a little bit thick, it's a little bit finicky, but I feel like I get the best results with this kind of stabilizer. So you roll it out, paper side up, press down in your hoop. Once you've got it pressed down in your hoop, you really need to tighten it. You don't want this slipping or going anywhere. You just kind of lightly scratch, go all the way around, and then peel it up. The sticky side is now exposed. We're going to take this over to the machine and stitch out our crosshairs. I'm on a baby lock meridian. Files are on USB. I have my instructions here on my folding metal book stand. Information on the book stand is below. I have my home sewn needle minder right here. This is great for helping keeping your place while you're working through the project. We need to start by stitching out our crosshairs. Let's go ahead and bring those up. It's called the centering crosshairs. Just have to bring that up. That is my canary. I'll put a picture of him on the screen. They're closer to me now, so you might hear them a little bit louder sometimes. You're going to stitch out your crosshairs right onto your stabilizer. Once your crosshairs are stitched out, we're going to take that over to the table. We're going to place our runner. Got my runner here. We have it right side up. We're going to fold it in half the long way. So you can see your trim. Fold it in half like that. And then we need to measure, and how far you're going to measure is going to depend on if you're making the 5x7 or the 8x12 hoop size. I need to measure up 5.5 inches for the 8x12. If you're making the 5x7, you need to measure 4 inches. I actually have a 5.5 inch ruler, and you measure excluding the trim. So you don't measure from here, measure from here. 5.5 inches. Make sure that everything is matched up underneath and along the side there, and then we're going to fold to put a crease in it. I'm just going to fold my ruler since it's 5.5 inches like that, and all we're doing is making a nice crease here and here to help place this in our hoop. Your instructions show you that the file is going to load sideways. So when we load this in our hoop, the trim is going to be on this side, the right side of your hoop, and the overhang is going to be on the left side where the arm of your machine is. Here's my centering crosshairs, and I've got this folded with the open end here and the edges here. I need this to come this way toward me. So I'm going to use this bottom square, which happens to be the square in the instructions. Sometimes the way I fold it doesn't work that way. Go ahead and line that up. I'm lining the fold here with the crosshair and the fold here with the crosshair. Press it down. This is a big reason why I like the sticky back for this. You can get this pressed down nice and secure. Press it down more, and then we're going to open it up, and you can see your crosshair and your fold line. So you know that's nice and straight. Press it down really good. And then what I like to do is use a couple of big clips, and I'll take the extra and roll it up so it stays out of the way while we're working on our embroidery. I've got this nice and pressed down. I have my clips on. Let's go ahead and load our file for our flag. I am doing the large flag for this applique of the month, so I only put the 8x12 and my crosshairs on my USB. It's just one file, so you just have to load that file, and we're ready to go. The first thing that comes up is the basting box. Since I'm using a sticky stabilizer, I do not need the basting box. I'm going to go ahead and skip that step, and I want to get to the stripes 1 placement line, which is this step right here. And I have my white thread on my machine. Let's go ahead and stitch out our stripes 1 placement line in white. We need to get our stripes 1 fabric and cover that placement line we just stitched out. I've got my stripes 1 here. It's got fusible on the back. Make sure you cover the placement lines. Again, it's a little tight this month with the fabric. Be real careful when you're measuring and cutting. It looks like everything's going to fit. It's just a little bit tight, so double check your fit there, and then add a piece of tape and stitch out the tack down. The tack down is stitched out. We want to go ahead and trim away everything outside the tack down line. We're actually going to have a nice little piece of fabric left over right here. You can save that for other projects. I hung up a blanket to help with the light. Let's go to the next step. That's better. Let's stitch out the stripes 2 placement lines. All the little lines are stitched. We want to grab our stripes 2 fabric, which is the red polka dot, place it right side up, and we're still leaving the white thread on the machine. Be careful, double check. I'm going to add tape, and I'm going to sit here and watch it, make sure it doesn't move. We're going to stitch the stripes 2 tack down lines. Those are all stitched out. Next we have to do some trimming. You want to keep what's inside each of these curvy rectangles and trim away what's on the outside. Once you've got all that trimmed, we're still using the color white. We're going to stitch the stars background placement line. That's all stitched out. We want to grab our stars background fabric. This fabric I had more than enough of. This piece was very generous. I want to go ahead and place that, and then we want to stitch the stars background tack down line. We still have the color white on our machine. We want to go ahead and trim away everything outside of that tack down line. I've got that all trimmed. We're going to stitch out our stars. All the stars have stitched out. This area is blank, and this little piece of the star is blank for a reason. There's going to be some flowers and leaves, so don't think something stitched out wrong. It's supposed to be like that. The next thing we're going to stitch out are the stripes 1 satin outlines. That's all stitched out. One thing I noticed is I've got a little bit of red. Do you see that peeking through? When I trimmed these, I guess I didn't trim them clean enough, and there were some little bits, see, like this, and it's popping through the white. Our next step is to switch to Wildflower. This is the color I'm using for Wildflower, and we're going to stitch the stripes 2 satin outlines. They're going to go on the other side of the red, so if there's any red fuzzy sticking out, it's kind of going to blend in. The red satin outline has stitched. This project has a couple really long stitch outs. Make sure you've got time. We're going to change to the color space. I picked one that's a little bit more blue. It's not an exact match to the Glide color cards. And we're going to stitch out the stars background, a satin outline. Next, we're going to switch to the color Clover, and we're going to stitch out the leaves and stems fills. The green is all stitched out. We're going to switch to the color Bubblegum, and we're going to stitch out the placement lines for flowers 1 and 4. Flowers 1 and 4 use the felts if you've got the doorstep delivery. Go ahead and place the felts. I'm going to add a piece of tape. Then we're going to stitch out the tack down and trim everything outside of the tack down line. I've got these trimmed. I did use the snips for these. There is no detail stitching. These are easier for me to be a little bit more precise. We're going to put this back on the machine, and we need to switch to the color Taffy. Now the color I picked for Taffy absolutely does not match the Glide color card. I looked at the Micro Velvet and I wanted something that blended in a little bit more with the Micro Velvet. Taffy is more of a pink color. I decided to go a little bit more matchy-matchy, so this is the thread I'm using. We're going to stitch out the flower 3 placement line. Flower 3 is in the Micro Velvet. It has a nap. When you brush one direction, it looks good. When you brush the other direction, it looks not so good. There you go. So right now, that's opposite of nap. And then the nap is going to make it look nice and smooth. They have us placing it with the nap going down toward the trim. So make sure you've got that placed. If you lay it down and place it in another direction, it's not going to matter. It's a table runner. It's going to look great. If you hear any background noise, I'm in the new room and they're doing a little bit of more work on the outside. We're just about done. Let's go ahead and stitch our tack down. That's tacked down. Before I take this off my machine and trim it, I'm going to go ahead and stitch out the flower 5 and 6 placement lines, which is also in the Micro Velvet. Place the Micro Velvet and tack it down, and then I'll trim everything at once. These are both tacked down. When you go to trim, these are going to get a little fuzzy. You can use a piece of paper tape or a lint roller to pick up the fuzz. I'm going to trim these and then we'll move on to the next step. All trimmed and lint roll. I highly recommend getting the lint roller out. It went much faster than if you used the tape. We're going to switch back to the color space and we're going to stitch out the flower 2 placement line. We'll place our flower 2 felt, which is the light blue felt. Then we'll stitch the tack down and trim. I'm going to go ahead and run that together. It's the same procedure as for the pink flowers. I've got my flower trimmed. The next step is to stitch out Let Freedom Ring. We have 2 more things to stitch out. We're going to stitch out the flowers 1 and 4 centers fill. They call for the color steel blue. Mine is more of a plain light blue. I didn't really have a good match for steel blue. I think I have it somewhere, but I have so many projects lined up with their threads I couldn't find it. So I'm going to go with that. It looks nice with the colors of felt that we have. And then the color white for the flower 2 center fill. So the steel blue is flowers 1 and 4 center fill. White is flower 2 center fill. I'm going to go ahead and run those 2 steps together. All done, let's go to the table and remove our stabilizer. The first thing we want to do is get our project out of the hoop. I've got this out of the hoop. Turn it over, tear it away. It's a sticky back tear away. I'm probably just going to tear away everything that's on the outside. I'm not worried about getting all the little bits. If you think this is going to be a heavily washed item, I would do a sticky back wash away. This is a little bit papery, or if you use a sticky back tear away or a cutaway, if it's going to see a lot of washing, you probably want to pick out a lot more than I'm going to pick out. I'm going to go ahead and tear this away. If you want to get some of the smaller bits, you can use a seam ripper, tweezers, whatever you have that'll be easy to work with. The one thing that I like to check for on these is our crosshairs. You can really see them here from the back. We want to check on the front and see if they're visible, because if they're really visible, then we want to go ahead and peel that stabilizer away and get rid of the crosshairs. Let's flip this over. This is all covered in fabric, so your crosshairs are hidden underneath. I don't need to pick any more away from this. I'm going to stitch out the next flag and then bring it back and we'll look at both. We're all done. Are you ready? Here is our finished runner. This is the one that I did on camera. Came out beautifully. Love it. Really like that this is all fabric, so I didn't have to worry about that crosshair on the back. The micro velvet looks good. The felt looks good. Has nice trim on it. I have not yet given it a press. If I give it a press on the iron, it'll smooth out a little bit. One thing to mention, because I use a hot glue gun back here, if I iron this, I have to be really careful not to melt this to my ironing board. The best thing to do for this would have been to use a fray preventative and hand stitch it down. Just give it a couple of tacking stitches and get that into place. Let's look at the other side. Here's the one I did off camera. Looks pretty much like the one I did on camera. The biggest thing I've noticed on both of them is when I was cutting the red, I tried to be a lot more careful on this one. I still got some little frays and they're coming through the white and satin stitching. I can go through with some snips, tweezers, scissors, and try and trim that out, but for right now, it's just going to stay like that. I think it's ready to put by the front door. I like it. It came out great. Thank you so much for joining me today for the May Applique of the month, the Freedom Rings Table Runner. If after watching this video, you're thinking of signing up for Applique of the month, please consider using my link below. I get a small commission from the use of my links as a Kimberbell affiliate, but more importantly, it lets Kimberbell know people are watching and enjoying my content. Leave me any comments or questions below the video, and I'll be back again next month with an Applique of the Month runner. See you next time!